begin to learn about our first lesson, Introduction to Psychology. For a beginner, every exam paper will have a question, what is psychology or define psychology. So psychology, this word psychology has been derived from two Greek words, psyche meaning the soul or the spirit and logos meaning the study or knowledge, which means that psychology is the study of soul. The term psychology was first coined by Rudolf Golich in 1590. To understand the topic, let us understand history of psychology. So, psychology initially began as a philosophy. So, psychology is a very new branch of study. So, at this point, many may ask me whether psychology is an art or a science. Well, it is both, and we will be seeing the explanation in our later videos also. The ancient civilization like Egypt, Greece, China, India, Persia, etc., they were engaged in philosophical study of psychology. In India, these philosophies were influenced by Hinduism. The central idea was taken by scriptures like Upanishads. A very interesting Indian concept was that of yoga. Yoga was not only used for physical well-being but also mental well-being. And it was this reason, I guess, that we see many philosophers started visiting India and that Indian leaders became very popular figures abroad. This relationship of mind and body first originated in Ayurveda. Very common words and philosophies from India are like karma and karmic eternity, the unchanging soul and the eternity of human experiences, etc. Now let us move away from India. We can see many other evidences of attempt of psychological studies like those found in medical scripts of Egypt. Now in Western world, we can see many philosophers contributing to the study of human mind like Thales, Pythagoras, Aristotle. The first unofficial personality theory was explained by Hippocrates around 2300 years ago. This is very similar to body fluid concept of Indian Ayurveda, and we will be discussing it as a part of our lesson. Now in 17th century, René Descartes presented dualism theory when he said that human experience is the result of mixed outcome of body and mind. Another notable definition is of William James, where he talks about consciousness. With these work coming into picture, the subject psychology was now philosophized. In 1879, William Wundt established a research laboratory and he started collecting data and systematically initiated observations. With his efforts, psychology became a formal discipline of study. He is known as the father of modern psychology, William Wundt. His efforts were to solve philosophical problems in a very scientific manner. He explained human experiences in a very reasonable manner. Wundt believed that we can understand the structure of our mind through introspection. Now, what do you mean by the word introspection? Introspection is the process of examining and observing one's own mental and emotional process. Now, Wundt said that we must observe our mental and emotional process through introspection method and understand our mental self. This concept is known as structuralism. Now, this is the first time in history that philosophy was looked upon as a science. To some, it was the first time when the mental processes were quantified. Another prominent name in psychology is of William James, and we already discussed about him. William James used the concept of Darwin's natural selection theory and explained that the high functioning of human mind is a result of evolutionary process. Now, so just like our physical evolutionary changes, our mind also went through the change to get evolved as a most high functioning and dynamic human mind. Now, this evolutionary advantage theory is known as functionalism. Today, a new branch in psychology has emerged, and this is altogether known as evolutionary psychology. We have seen people describing psychology as a study of soul. We have seen people describing it as study of mind, and now we are seeing people describing psychology as a study of conscious experiences. An evolutionary breakthrough came in when an Austrian neurologist named Dr. Sigmund Freud elaborated personality theory. Before Freud, psychology had never been as successful as now to deal with the mental diseases that we see today. He changed the whole outlook of psychology with his personality theory. He explained about the three layers of human mind: the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. He said that our behavior and experiences are a result of our childhood memories and the conscious desires. He developed various successful therapies like talk therapy, dream analysis, etc. to bring out the root cause of the trouble and healing. His theory is known as psychoanalytic theory. Later on, many psychologists took his study further, like Carl Jung, Erik Erikson, Carl Horney, etc. Now, the next major success came in 1900s when a Russian psychologist Ivan Pavlov started measuring behaviorism. The focus now moved from conscious and unconscious, and a new branch of psychology was evolved, and this is known as behaviorism. It is a very important topic, and we will be going through this in detail. We will be learning about conditioning, reinforcement technique, punishment and reward, etc., which behaviorism talks about. Okay, now few prominent advocates of this theory were John Watson, B.F. Skinner, etc. Now, in mid-1900s, many critics came up with criticism against these theories, and we can see few names like Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, etc. They put forward new theories where they talked about personal responsibility, goal setting, and self-actualization. The branch of psychology which talks about, now this branch of psychology is known as humanistic psychology. This model is quite holistic as it covers all the aspects of our lives. By 1960, we see an advance in technology, and hence a new branch of psychology started emerging. It is now known as cognitive psychology. Here, a more research-based and scientific technique is used by data analysis and statistics. Our abilities like attention, memory, perception, problem solving, thinking, etc. are now converted into data, and through a scientific research we are now able to understand what alters our functioning and stability. Later, MRI, EEG, scans, etc. improved our understanding of human mind. Today we are able to understand and explain human mind based on cultural experiences, social media influence, genetics, etc. So psychologists have now spread their wings, and they specialize in a particular field of study, and they expertise themselves in that particular field. Child psychology, developmental psychology, educational psychology, etc. Now that we understand the basic history about psychology, let's revise them again. The word psychology has been derived from two Greek words, psyche meaning the soul or the spirit, and logos meaning study or knowledge. The word psychology was first coined by Rudolf Gokel in 1590. Now, to remember the stages of history of psychology, we can go through a definition by Robert Woodworth in his book Experiment Psychology in 1938, where he says psychology first lost its soul, then its mind, and then it lost its consciousness. It still has behavior of a kind. Let us understand this definition in detail. Early philosophers like Aristotle, Plato, etc. described psychology as a study of soul, right? But this was not accepted as it had no scientific explanation. In 17th century, this definition changed and psychology was defined as a study of mind. This was also rejected as it was also not a complete definition. In 20th century, Watson called psychology as a study of behavior. This definition is even popular today. So psychology can be defined as a scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. F. Skinner defines psychology as a study of human behavior. The next topic that we are going to learn is of scope of psychology. Psychology can be divided into two main groups: pure psychology and applied psychology. Pure psychology is known as theory. It is the fundamental knowledge of psychology. Okay, it is known as experimental psychology. Now, applied psychology is when psychological concepts are used by psychologists in application of the knowledge of psychology. Let us understand this in detail now. Pure psychology is known as the fundamental psychology. When a new student enters into learning psychology, they learn about this introduction to psychology, biological psychology, sensation, perception, learning, memory, etc. These concepts are the basic. They learn these concepts. Okay. Now, experimental psychologists specialize in the study of psychological processes and they conduct research. For example, let us take a biological psychologist. He or she will be involved in the study of organs, for example, our nervous system, and may work on it, how it functions and how it is responsible for we think and behave. They may also consider studying based on animals and its relationship through comparison, etc. And this knowledge is applied in human beings for treatment and purposes. It becomes applied psychology. Okay, so pure psychology is divided into further branches. So the first one is general psychology. This branch of psychology deals with fundamental rules and principles and theories of psychology in relation to the study of behavior of normal adult beings. It explains various psychological processes like sensation, perception, etc. We will be learning about this in detail. The second one is physiological psychology. This branch describes the biological basis of behavior. There is a close relationship between our mind and body. Both influence each other. This is explained in physiological psychology. The next is developmental psychology. Human life passes through various stages of development. We are always developing. Right from the conception till the death, we develop. This branch explains growth and development. Now, the next branch is very important for a teacher and we will be studying this in detail. It is child psychology. Childhood extends from a period of 2 years to 12 years and we will be seeing physical, mental aspects of a child also. Now, the fifth one is animal psychology. This branch deals with behavior of animals. Many psychological experiments are conducted to know the functioning of our mind, and they are being done in animals initially. So experiments based on animal behavior has been a reason to understand human behavior also. next one is abnormal psychology. This branch deals with various disorders and psychological abnormalities. The next one is a social psychology. Human being is a social animal, and they are influenced by society and community they live in. We will be learning about many concepts of social psychology in our second lesson, sociology. The eighth one and the last one is parapsychology. Some psychological experiences are like beyond our five senses. This can be only explained with experience, like our gut feeling. That's why they are called ESP or extrasensory perceptions. You can learn a little more in one of the videos in our group. Coming to the second branch, second subdivision, applied psychology. Now, applied psychology is a branch of psychology that deals with the application of the principles and techniques of approaching problems psychologically. Let us discuss the various branches of applied psychology. Now, the first and the most important branch is educational psychology. It is the most important field of psychology where principles are applied in the field of education. Here, the learner and the trainer are kept in focus. This branch addresses to the problems and improvement in teaching and learning process. One is called clinical psychology. Now, this branch deals with therapeutic aspects of mental disorder. There are many types of mental illness requiring therapies. Clinical psychology helps us to identify the disease or disorder, the intensity of the effect, and various therapies to apply. The third one is industrial psychology. Now, human beings are different from machines, right? They will have many problems in their workplace like adjustments, safety, security, health and finance, etc. Both management and workers needs to cooperate in dealing with such problems. Industrial psychology seeks application of psychological principles and theories and techniques for the study of all these problems and the industrial environment. The fourth one is a very well heard branch. It's called counseling psychology. Mental disorders, as we know, may not be completely cured at times just by administering drugs. They need therapies, counselings, etc. Counseling therapy is one such therapy. Counseling is a process in which an interaction takes place between a trained counselor and a client. This branch helps people to overcome problems. In addition to this, there are other psychological branches like military psychology, criminal or legal psychology, political psychology, etc. See them on your screen now. Now let us discuss some methods of studying psychology. Psychology is a scientific study of human mind. It is called a scientific study because it is research based. It also works with the help of statistics. The experiment may be controlled or maybe on a controlled group or maybe on a diverse community. Different types of data are collected based on physical, demography, etc. A very common methods used in the study of psychology are experimental method. So experimental method, it can be either on a controlled group as we said or on an experimental group. There are again few types of experiments like lab experiment, field experiment, etc. So we don't have to go in detail. We will be just brushing through these studying methods in this video. The other one is observation method. Okay, it's a general observation method. It can be direct or indirect observation. The next one is case study method, correlational research method, content analysis method, conceptual analysis method, relational method, survey research method, etc. So research can be done in many ways like direct interviews, telephonic or digital survey, questionnaire, etc. Now the next topic is how psychology helps you. So why as a teacher, why do you have to study psychology? So it helps us for self-understanding and insight. Understanding various methods and psychological constructs, we can understand ourselves, our motives and our behavior patterns better. It helps to understand our true self. So where all can we use our knowledge of psychology in our lives, right? To understand issues related to health, education, events around us, our relationships, employment like education, media, business, sports, etc. Secondly, psychology can help us to make decisions better. It can help us in conflict resolution, stress management, time management, etc. It helps us in improving our communication skills. It helps one to understand how humans think and behave, so helps to communicate better. It helps in building healthy relationship. So does it help in ending relationship also? Yes, if there is a toxic relationship, psychology helps us to understand it too. So psychology helps to instill self-confidence. It helps to enrich a career and so on. There are so many things it helps us with. Now let us understand how psychology helps teachers. It helps teachers to understand their student better, their motivation, social and environmental contexts, their learning patterns, so many things. See, when we see our typical Indian school, unless a teacher is trained and learns to work with insight and knowledge, it is not easy to reach those children who need help. A teacher over the years can easily identify students' strength and weakness and apply the principles of psychology in shaping learning. For example, every classroom will have a mixture of slow learners and extremely quick graspers. These are the two categories that distract the classroom, either because they are unable to understand anything or they are bored of learning the same thing. So if the lesson plan is designed in a way that both these groups are occupied with knowledge, the mass group in the class gets benefited too. It helps teachers to become a guide by showing them the right way. We will be discussing more points as we start our chapter, Educational Psychology. So the next subject that we will be covering is child psychology. See you in the next class.